Have you ever wondered why the people who sacrifice the most are often respected the least? You say yes when you want to say no. You put everyone else's needs before your own. You avoid conflict. You forgive too quickly. You keep giving, hoping that one day people will appreciate your kindness. But instead, they begin to expect it. Then they take advantage of it. And eventually, they stop respecting it altogether. The Stoics understood a difficult truth that most people spend years avoiding. Kindness without boundaries is not kindness. It's self-abandonment. In this video, you'll discover why being too nice often pushes people away instead of bringing them closer, what Seneca taught about generosity, and how to remain kind without allowing others to take your peace. There is a question few people ever ask themselves. Why is it so hard to say no? Most believe the answer is simple. Because I'm kind. But kindness is rarely the real reason. More often, it's fear. The fear of disappointing someone. The fear of looking selfish. The fear of being rejected. Or perhaps, the fear that if you stop giving, people will stop loving you. That fear hides itself well. It doesn't sound like fear. It sounds like responsibility. It sounds like generosity. It sounds like being a good person. So you say yes, even when every part of you wants to say no. You agree to favors you don't have time for. You answer messages when you're exhausted. You cancel your own plans because someone else suddenly needs you. You tell yourself, it's only this once. But it is never only once. Because every time you ignore your own limits, you teach people where your limits are. Imagine a house with no front door. Anyone can walk in. Anyone can leave a mess. Anyone can take what they want. Not because people are cruel by nature, but because no boundary ever tells them to stop. Your time works the same way. Your energy works the same way. Your kindness works the same way. Without boundaries, even good people may begin asking for more than they should. This doesn't mean the world is full of selfish people. It means human beings naturally adapt to what is repeatedly available. If you always say yes, yes becomes expected. Not appreciated. Expected. And once something becomes expected, gratitude quietly disappears. This is the moment many people become confused. Why do I feel invisible after giving so much? Because giving is not the same as being valued. A candle can light an entire room. But if no one protects the flame, it eventually burns itself out. Many people live exactly like that candle. Always available. Always giving. Always sacrificing. Until one day, there is nothing left to give. The Stoics never taught that kindness meant abandoning yourself. They believed that every virtue required wisdom. Courage without wisdom becomes recklessness. Honesty without wisdom becomes cruelty. And kindness without wisdom becomes self-neglect. That is why learning to say no is not the opposite of kindness. Sometimes, it is the highest form of respect. Respect for your time. Respect for your energy. And respect for the life you have been entrusted to live. Because every time you say yes to something that violates your values, you quietly say no to yourself. Kindness is one of the most beautiful qualities a person can possess. But kindness without wisdom can quietly become a prison. At first, you don't notice it. Helping a friend feels natural. Covering for a coworker feels generous. Putting your family first feels like love. None of these things are wrong. The problem begins when kindness stops being a choice and becomes an obligation. When you no longer help because you want to. You help because you feel guilty if you don't. There is an important difference. One comes from freedom. The other comes from fear. Imagine carrying a backpack. At first, someone asks you to hold a single stone. It isn't heavy. So you smile and accept. Later, another stone is added. Then another. And another. Because you've never said, "This is enough." People assume you can carry more. Eventually, the weight becomes unbearable. Yet when your shoulders begin to ache, you don't blame the stones. You blame yourself for not being strong enough. But strength was never the problem. The problem was believing you had to carry everything. This happens in everyday life more often than we realize. The colleague who always asks for one more favor. The friend who only calls when they need something. The relative who assumes you'll always rearrange your schedule. None of these requests seem unreasonable on their own. But together, they slowly teach you that your own needs always come last. And the strangest part is this. Many people will never ask, "Are you okay?" Because you've trained them to believe you always will be. The Stoics never confused virtue with self-sacrifice. To them, virtue meant acting with reason, not abandoning yourself in the name of goodness. Seneca believed generosity was meaningful only when it came from abundance, not exhaustion. Because a person who is emotionally empty cannot give genuine kindness. They can only give what's left of themselves. Think about a well. If everyone keeps drawing water, but no one allows the well to refill, eventually, the bucket comes up empty. Human beings are no different. Rest is not selfish. Boundaries are not selfish. Saying no is not selfish. Sometimes, they are the very things that protect your ability to keep being kind. The truth is, people don't lose respect for you because you're kind. They lose respect when your kindness has no limits. Because anything that is always available is eventually taken for granted. Real kindness has a backbone. It knows when to give. And it knows when to step back. Not out of anger. Not out of pride. But out of respect. For both yourself and the people around you. Because kindness that destroys the giver cannot remain kindness for very long. A brief reflection. If this reflection is helping you see your own habits more clearly, take a moment to like this video. It helps more people discover these timeless lessons of Stoic philosophy. And if you're learning how to stay kind without losing yourself, consider subscribing to the channel. Every week, we explore practical Stoic wisdom to help you build a calmer, stronger, and more resilient life. Now, let's continue. There is a painful misunderstanding that traps many kind people for years. They believe that the more they sacrifice, the more they will be appreciated. It sounds noble. It feels generous. But life often tells a different story. Think about the people you respect most. Is it because they always say yes? Because they never disappoint anyone? Because they abandon their own needs to make everyone else comfortable? Probably not. You respect them because they know who they are. They know what they value. And they are not afraid to protect it. Respect is rarely built through endless availability. It is built through consistency. Imagine visiting a beautiful garden. There is a small wooden fence around it. The fence doesn't exist because the gardener hates people. It exists because the flowers matter. Without the fence, people step wherever they want. Some pick the flowers. Some crush them without even noticing. Not out of cruelty, but because nothing reminds them to be careful. Boundaries work the same way. They are not walls built to keep love out. They are quiet reminders that something valuable lives here. Something worth protecting. Many people worry that setting boundaries will push others away. Sometimes, it will. But ask yourself this. If someone leaves your life simply because you stop sacrificing yourself for them, what exactly were they staying for? You? Or your usefulness? That question is uncomfortable. Yet it reveals more truth than years of people-pleasing ever could. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when we stop trying to control what belongs to others. You cannot control whether someone approves of your boundaries. You cannot control whether they call you selfish, or difficult, or cold. What you can control is whether your boundaries are honest, whether they are fair, whether they reflect the life you want to live. Imagine an archer holding a bow. If the string is always pulled tight, it eventually snaps. Not because it is weak, because it was never designed to remain under constant tension. Human beings are no different. When you are always available, always solving, always rescuing, your spirit begins to fray in places no one else can see. And then something strange happens. The kindness that once came naturally starts to feel like resentment. Not because you stopped caring, because you've been giving from obligation instead of choice. The Stoics understood that virtue cannot survive without balance. Generosity needs wisdom. Compassion needs discernment. Service needs limits. Otherwise, the very qualities that make you a good person become the reason you lose yourself. Real kindness doesn't ask you to disappear. It asks you to remain fully present, without abandoning your own dignity. Because people may admire endless sacrifice for a moment, but in the long run, they respect the person who knows exactly where kindness ends and self-respect begins. Seneca never believed that kindness meant giving everything away. To him, true generosity was never measured by how much you sacrificed. It was measured by the wisdom behind the gift. Imagine a physician in a crowded hospital. Every patient needs attention. Every voice sounds urgent. Every problem seems important. If the physician tried to save everyone at the same time, he would save no one. Not because he lacked compassion. Because compassion without judgment becomes chaos. Life quietly presents us with the same challenge. Every day, someone needs your time. Someone needs your advice. Someone needs your energy. If you answer every request, you slowly lose the ability to answer the ones that matter most. Seneca understood something that many kind people overlook. You cannot pour endlessly from a vessel that is never refilled. Sooner or later, even the purest spring runs dry. And when exhaustion replaces joy, kindness begins to change its shape. You still say yes, but inside, you hope they won't ask again. You still smile, but the smile feels heavier than it used to. You still help, but afterward, you feel strangely empty. This is not generosity. It is depletion. Imagine carrying a lantern through a dark forest. The flame allows others to find their way. But if you never stop to protect it from the wind, eventually the light disappears. Not because darkness became stronger, because the flame was never cared for. Your inner life is that flame. Your peace, your health, your relationships, your quiet moments of rest. These are not rewards you earn after taking care of everyone else. They are the very things that make genuine kindness possible. Seneca believed that wisdom teaches us not only when to give, but also when to step back. Not every problem belongs to you. Not every burden is yours to carry. Not every person can be rescued by your sacrifice. Some lessons can only be learned by those who must live them. Trying to save everyone often prevents them from discovering their own strength, and it slowly destroys yours. This is one of the hardest truths to accept. Sometimes helping less helps more, because it allows people to grow instead of depending on you. It allows your kindness to come from freedom instead of obligation, and it allows you to remain whole instead of disappearing behind everyone else's needs. The Stoics never asked us to become indifferent. They asked us to become wise, to give with an open heart, but also with clear eyes. Because kindness guided by wisdom doesn't weaken you. It quietly makes everyone around you stronger. There is a quiet bargain that many people make without ever realizing it. It sounds something like this. If I give enough, they'll stay. If I sacrifice enough, they'll appreciate me. If I keep putting everyone else first, one day they'll finally do the same for me. At first, this bargain feels like love, but over time, it slowly becomes a transaction. Not because you intended it to, because your happiness begins to depend on what you receive in return. Think about how often disappointment follows generosity. You cancel your plans to help someone. They barely say thank you. You solve a problem no one else wanted to solve. A week later, it's as if it never happened. You remember every sacrifice. They remember only that you were available. That isn't because people are always ungrateful. It's because human beings quickly adapt to what becomes normal. When kindness is constant, it no longer feels extraordinary. It becomes expected. And expectations rarely create appreciation. They create entitlement. Imagine a bridge connecting two cliffs. A bridge exists so that people can cross safely. But if everyone keeps crossing, while no one ever repairs the bridge, one day it begins to crack. Not all at once. Quietly. One board at a time. Many kind people live exactly like that bridge. Always supporting. Always carrying. Always available. Until one day, they collapse under a weight no one else even noticed. Then people ask, "What happened?" Nothing happened overnight. Years happened. Years of giving without restoring. Years of saying yes while meaning no. Years of confusing love with self-erasure. The Stoics believe that love should never require you to abandon your own nature. Because the moment kindness demands that you betray your values, it is no longer virtue. It is dependence disguised as generosity. Real love never asks you to disappear. Real friendship never demands that you become smaller. Real respect never grows from endless self-sacrifice. It grows from honesty, from consistency, from mutual care. Ask yourself a difficult question. If you stopped fixing everyone's problems tomorrow, who would still choose to stay in your life? The answer may hurt, but it will also reveal something precious. The people who truly value you never loved you because you carried everything. They loved you because of who you are. Everyone else was simply attached to what you provided. There is a profound difference between being needed and being loved. Many spend their entire lives chasing the first, while quietly starving for the second. The day you stop trying to earn love through exhaustion is the day you finally give people the chance to love the real you. Not your usefulness, not your endless availability, but your presence. And that kind of love never needs to be purchased. There is a quiet difference between being kind and becoming small. Many people confuse the two. They lower their voice, hide their opinions, ignore their own needs, and call it humility. But humility was never meant to erase your identity. The Stoics never believed that virtue required self-neglect. In fact, they believed the opposite. A person who cannot respect themselves will eventually struggle to respect others in the right way. Imagine an old oak tree standing alone in a wide field. It offers shade to strangers, shelter to birds, strength against the wind. It gives freely. Yet it never shrinks to make the grass around it feel taller. It never apologizes for taking up space. It never bends simply because someone demands it. Its kindness comes from its strength, not from its fear. Human beings were meant to live the same way. You can be generous without becoming available to everyone. You can forgive without inviting repeated disrespect. You can love deeply without abandoning yourself. These are not contradictions. They are signs of maturity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that every person has a role to fulfill. Not someone else's role. His own. When you spend your life trying to become everything for everyone, you slowly abandon the one responsibility that truly belongs to you. To become the best version of yourself, there will always be another request, another favor, another expectation. If your worth depends on meeting all of them, your life will never belong to you. It will belong to the demands of others. True strength is quieter than that. It knows when to help and when to step back. It knows when compassion heals and when compassion becomes enablement. It knows that saying no to one person can sometimes be the most honest way of saying yes to the life you are trying to build. Think about the people who have had the greatest influence on your life. Were they the ones who agreed with everything? Who never challenged you? Who sacrificed themselves until nothing remained? Or were they the people who were both kind and courageous? The ones who could offer warmth without losing their principles, the ones who cared, without surrendering their identity. That is the balance the Stoics sought. Not a life without kindness. A life where kindness is guided by wisdom. Because wisdom protects kindness from becoming weakness. And self-respect protects generosity from becoming self-destruction. One day, you will discover something unexpected. The people who truly value you will not leave because you finally set healthy boundaries. They will respect you even more. And those who disappear were never attached to your heart. They were attached to your availability. That realization may feel painful, but it is also incredibly freeing. Because from that moment on, your kindness is no longer driven by fear. It becomes a choice, a gift, an expression of your character, not a price you pay to earn a place in someone else's life. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson Stoicism offers. Do not become hard. The world already has enough hard hearts. Become strong enough that your kindness is a reflection of your character, never a consequence of your insecurity. Perhaps the greatest mistake many kind people make is believing that love must always cost them something, so they keep paying with their time, their energy, their peace, their dreams, until one day they look in the mirror and wonder where they went. The tragedy is not that they cared too much. The tragedy is that somewhere along the way, they forgot to care for themselves. The Stoics never asked us to become cold. They never praised selfishness. Marcus Aurelius believed that we are made to help one another. But helping others was never meant to come at the expense of your own character. Because when kindness destroys the person who offers it, everyone loses. A tired heart cannot give genuine compassion. An exhausted mind cannot offer clear wisdom. An empty soul cannot continue pouring into others forever. That is why real kindness begins long before you help another person. It begins with the way you treat yourself. The promises you keep to yourself. The boundaries you refuse to betray. The quiet moments when you choose integrity. Even if no one notices. Perhaps strength has been misunderstood. Strength is not becoming harder. It is not learning to care less. It is learning to care, without abandoning yourself. To give, without expecting your worth in return. To forgive, without inviting repeated disrespect. To walk beside people, without carrying them on your back. That is the balance the Stoics spent their lives pursuing. Not endless sacrifice. Not emotional distance. But wisdom. Because wisdom knows that kindness without self-respect eventually becomes resentment. And self-respect without kindness becomes isolation. A meaningful life requires both. So the next time someone asks for more than you can honestly give, pause before answering. Not because you no longer care, but because your answer should come from intention, not guilt. There will always be opportunities to prove your generosity. Far fewer opportunities to protect your peace. Choose carefully. Because every decision shapes not only the life you live, but the person you become. And in the end, people may forget how many favors you did for them. They may forget how available you were. They may even forget the sacrifices you made. But they will remember something far more important. How your presence made them feel. How your character remained steady. How your kindness never asked for applause. And never came at the cost of your dignity. That is the kind of strength that never fades. Final reflection. Before you leave, I'd like to ask you one question. Have you ever realized that being too nice cost you your peace, your confidence, or your self-respect? Share your experience in the comments. Your story may help someone else find the courage to set their first healthy boundary. If this reflection spoke to you, please take a moment to like this video. It helps these timeless Stoic lessons reach more people who may need them today. If you know someone who is constantly putting everyone else first while forgetting themselves, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear. And if you're committed to building a calmer mind, stronger character, and a life guided by Stoic wisdom, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss future reflections. Until next time, be generous, be compassionate, but never become so small that your kindness costs you yourself. Because the strongest people are not those who give everything away. They are the ones who know exactly what should never be given away in the first place.